listening to the Hometown Losers, the St. Louis Sports Podcast, with Josh, Adam, and OJ.
Hey everybody, welcome back here to the Hometown Losers Podcast. This is session number 20, the big 2-0, and I'm joined as always by my co-host here and OJ and Adam. Gentlemen, how are we doing today?
I'm doing great. How about you, Adam?
I'm doing great, man. Glad to be here for exciting episode number 20. So hard to believe that we've already been through 20 weeks of this already. So time's flying.
Yeah. Feels like
it's
an
kind of
eternity.
crazy. I mean, at least hopefully it's like an exciting eternity, or like it doesn't like, oh my God, this is taking forever kind of thing. But like, it's kind of interesting. Like, this
When's
is
it going to be over?
Right, exactly. Like, because that's the thing about it, OJ. When you and I had our radio show back when we were in college, I mean, obviously we didn't like keep track of our session numbers or anything like that, but I think we only had like 10 or 12 sessions that we did get late into the game, and then we kind of left a little bit earlier, so to speak, on that stuff. But this is for when it comes to like just to talking sports and stuff like this is definitely the longest that I've ever stuck with something like this, which is really cool. For sure.
Well, it's almost 5 months, damn near. So that is a long time to go for sure. I mean, for from just starting out as hey, let's give this a shot and see if we enjoy it, and it seems like it's picking up steam. So hopefully the listeners are enjoying it as well.
Yeah, for sure. And whoever's listening in Mexico, we really appreciate it. I don't know that one person.
Shout out to Mexico.
The analytics that's consistent listening in Mexico. So whoever you are, thank you very much. Gracias. I guess we can say it that way. But yeah, so it's been very fun for sure. And so here's to the 20th session. Here's to the next 20 sessions.
Absolutely.
So very exciting about that. But let's go ahead and dive into it, guys, here. Let's talk about some Cardinals, right? First and foremost, we got to talk about, how they improved. Since the last session, they started out 2-4. They've gone 3-3 since then. So we have a record here of 5-7. And they kind of put this in perspective too. We were 1-2 against the Brewers. We were 0-3 against Atlanta. We were 2-1 against Rockies and 2-1 against Toronto, right? I think so. Yeah. Right? Does that make sense? I think so.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say because the Rockies we ended up winning that series because we ended up besting them the past 2 games basically.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of what we talked about last session too. If we got swept by the Brewers, I was definitely going to be really concerned because obviously that's our major rival in the Central. We didn't get swept, but there's definitely times that we did not look good. So let me ask you guys, let's just get a general feel for this one. I'll start with you, Adam. Do you believe that they have improved?
I think that they have improved. They're getting in, they're getting into their stride. And the fact is, I think that we're going to actually be we're going to continue to improve as well, especially as our clubhouse gets healthier. It looks like Newt should be coming back pretty sooner rather than later. I know he completed a workout I think yesterday. It looks like he's recovering, and then also we may be seeing Waino come back pretty soon as well. So the fact is, our the health of our club is improving, as well as our offense is continuing to really, for the most part, looking really, really good as well. So obviously, one of our weaknesses still, our pitching hasn't been the greatest, but I think overall we are, we're getting into the stride of things. We basically break up the season into 10-game chunks. The first 10 were rocky for sure, but we have the next 10 games to be looking at, and I think that we're going to be on the uptick here. So I know the schedule wasn't really necessarily in our favor either at the beginning of the season, so just something to take into consideration.
Is the reason why the first 10 games rocky is because we played the Rockies?
Well, and I was going to say, and we ended up taking that series too, so which was nice. So we're going up against the Pirates. Actually, I think they're still tied, 0-0 right now in the sixth. But even with the Brewers, we did blank them on the one game. I think it was like game 2 of that series, I believe. So, which obviously,
Yep.
that's a
6-0,
feat to
6-0.
6-0. So, Gorman's been looking good. Walker's been looking good. Our whole team, overall in our offense, like I said, has been looking pretty good overall. So, just obviously our pitching needs some improvement still.
OJ, what's your thoughts? I mean, have they improved since the last session that we talked about?
Yeah, I think so a little bit. I mean, they did lose Packy Naughton, which hurts. With a forearm, so that's cryptic.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially for the Cardinals. Like next thing you know, it's Tommy John surgery. Like goes forearm strain. Oh, you need Tommy John. Like so that kind of sucks. But I don't think they're like doing things too differently. I think they're mostly just getting better results now. I mean, obviously they still have the same issues they had. They still have their defense is lacking, in my opinion, in the outfield, especially in the corners. And I think it hurts more than we realize.
For sure.
I mean, I think Jordan Walker's got 0.1 WAR right now, and that's after being 40% better than league average at hitting. So, you're on pace for 2 WAR, I guess, for the season. Probably a little more than that, 2-point-something WAR, which is kind of league average WAR, right? So that just gives you a sense of how bad his defense has been so far, is that it's kind of balancing out the benefits of his offense. So,
I feel like that's kind of what we talked about last session too, was specifically around his defense. Obviously his hitting was there, but it's the defense. He kind of looked very shaky for sure.
Right. So it would be very helpful for him to improve. And I agree, he just needs reps to improve now. But it would be nice if he could maybe have done some of that at AAA instead of going straight to
exactly
with it. But yeah, and then I do expect the defense to improve because Walker will get better as the year goes on. And we're bound to get Nootbaar and Carlson back. So, overall, though, I think they're still playing well and they're just getting better results. And we still have pitching could still be better, obviously, but it definitely didn't deserve as bad results as we got during that initial stretch. So I think it's kind of we're coming out of the storm a little bit now.
Yeah, and I think that, again, a lot of it's coming down to just kind of getting the opening day jitters completely out of the way. Because there's definitely talks that when a season starts and they have high expectations, they either come out of the gate soaring or they kind of muddle around before they start going, okay, cool. We know our identity. People are injured. They got healthy again. And this is what we're going to be able to do. And they start, hitting that midseason form.
Yeah.
And I think the Cardinals had definitely a lot of pressure on them. I feel like the players definitely felt some pressure to be successful because the fan base has been restless because of all this stuff with Bally and we didn't sign players. So now maybe they're going out and trying to do a little too much rather than just playing Cardinals baseball. Right. Mm-hmm. So I definitely believe that, this team will be okay. I mean, right now we're 4th in the Central and, 3 games behind the Brewers. I would be way more concerned if we were talking about this in, late July or beginning of August kind of thing. But, we got months and months and months of baseball coming up. And we saw last year. I mean, we were 8 games down to the Brewers very quickly. Mm-hmm. And we ended up beating them by 4 or 5 games. So,
yeah, I mean, that's the thing. That's just how baseball works. Obviously it's just, we'll get hot and we'll go in through streaks like this. It's just unfortunately, coming out of the gate, we look a little rough, but I still have faith that, they'll turn things around and, we'll get hot again. And obviously, they're hopefully in the midst of starting a little bit of a win streak for once. So I'm hoping.
Yeah. I mean, you can't come out of the gates like the Rays have. I mean, Jesus Christ.
No, God,
13-0. Oh.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. But obviously that's not sustainable either. So
I also wanted to point out that this is really the first time in several years where the Cardinals have been hyped for like anything. So especially offense. So like there's definitely pressure on the offense to produce because all offseason people are like, oh my God, this offense is going to be so good. They were like top 5 last year. Now they're gotten even better. And so like, yeah, guys were getting in their heads a little bit. And I think they were pretty down after the way they performed against Atlanta. And it seemed like they didn't even think they could win games. So that comeback there in game 2 against the Rockies, I think was huge. So.
Yeah. And again, sometimes it just takes that little spark to be able to turn around an entire season. I mean, obviously look at the 2019 Stanley Cup Blues. You know what I mean? Absolutely. Like it takes little tiny bits, and especially with baseball is such a finicky game. You know what I mean? Where they literally, we saw it, especially against the opening day against Toronto, where these guys are hitting the ball. Their average exit velocity for the game. I'm pretty sure I've said it, in the last session or the session before. The exit velocity was 71.8 miles per hour. That was the average hit. Like, really? That is incredibly low due to compared to last year's. Yeah, and so it's just, but the balls were going to where we were not. You know what I mean? They were too soft to be able to get into the outfield. You know what I mean? But they were too hard to stay in the infield too. So it's just that perfect. It's what I talk about in softball all the time. I'll take those hits all day long. Get me on base. You know what I mean?
I'll tell you right now. I remember that day vividly. I still bear the scars. So you don't need to speak that to me. That after so long of waiting for baseball, that's the game you get.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, if you look at it objectively, it was a really exciting game because it was a high scoring game, and it felt like it was going back and forth. It was just the 8th inning. We blew that, and it's like, great. Going into the 9th, you just felt like there was no way we're going to be able to do anything there.
Yeah, it was just a real stinker to lose too. It felt like we should have won by 3 runs instead we lose.
Yeah, exactly. But it is what it is here. We've already kind of talked about it here on our thoughts on the team. But for me, I definitely, to Adam's point, I'm definitely a little concerned about our pitching, specifically with Michaelis, because he hasn't looked all that great. You know what I mean? He really has not. People seem to be hating him very hard when you take a look at his average exit velocity. And to me, I think that just kind of speaks volumes because he's supposed to be your best pitcher that we have, right?
Yeah.
So,
and the fact that he allowed 6 runs on 10 hits and 2 walks over just 5 innings, that was pretty rough outing for sure.
Yeah.
Go on, OJ. Well, I was gonna say for him, the positive thing is that excuse me. I mean, some of his peripheral stuff is kind of good. He's still getting decent strikeout to walk and all that kind of stuff. And it just seems that he might be leaving some pitches out over the plate, and maybe he just needs to settle in and get more in the swing of things. And once he starts locating things, or not making as bad of mistakes, right? Because that's really what's getting killed on is the mistake pitches. Yep. So as he settles in and cuts down on those, we'll start seeing better results. Because outside of those mistake pitches, he seems like he should be doing okay. But
yeah, I mean, obviously he's not going to be a swing and miss guy. He's not what we would consider a bona fide ace. I definitely think he's a perfect Cardinals ace because obviously he can get a lot of ground balls, let our defense do the work. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But the problem is that the fact is kind of what OJ was saying is the fact that his accuracy is slipping for sure. And I mean, I'm looking at on Tuesday versus, whenever he pitched, he threw 59 of his 89 pitches for strikes. And of those, he surrendered 3 home runs, and all of those went over 420 feet. I mean, obviously they're, Colorado, but still, that's compared to looking at last year's, numbers, he's not consistent at all. So,
yeah.
And some of that too is, is very interesting because like there are times where he paints the black and and it's like, oh, okay, cool. Michael is like, he's got that control. And then as you said, OJ, it's the mistake pitches. And all of a sudden a ball is it's slight. We're talking about an inch, maybe an inch and a half, where it's just a little bit over the heart of the plate, but it's that much more where they can extend the barrel instead of a ground ball. They get good wood on the ball and be able to drive it, So that's the big difference, I think, between that, right?
Yeah. That's what I'm getting at, like hanging a curveball, stuff like that.
Yeah. And that was the other thing too, OJ, I was going to ask you more specifically around it. Does his spin rate seem to be a lot less compared to last year? Because and it just could be like me like being hyper focused on it and seeing it like on TV and stuff like that. Now that I'm watching the crap in 4K, but to me the ball seems to just hang a lot more. Like when he's throwing that curveball, it just seems to like hang a lot more. It's not dropping out. It doesn't seem to have the spin rate on it.
Honestly, I haven't seen his spin rate numbers for the season, so I couldn't.
Yeah, I haven't seen them either. Yeah, I was just going off the eye. So that's why I kind of wanted to confer to you a little bit too. Is like, well, if you're kind of noticing that too, then cool, maybe next session we can take a look at that kind of thing.
You're noticing a pitch shape difference, you're saying?
Yeah, like to me, again, like his curveball isn't like isn't dropping out as much, and it just seems to be like looping in, it's like rainbowing in, in a very predictable way. You know what I mean? I
think I'd have to see him like back to back or something to really make a judgment on that.
Right. Yeah. So that was my thing about it too. Is like, did he change anything on the offseason for grip and stuff like that? On the bottom, I would imagine he didn't. Yeah.
I didn't read anything about that, so.
I didn't read anything about it either, but it was just something that I was more curious about. You know what I mean? Because again, when I'm watching that, it just didn't seem to have the move. His fastball seems to be very straight line too, and it always had like a little bit of a tail too. But again, it's early. He's only had 3 starts, right? So it's gonna be, hopefully he can get past them and progress to get better, especially with the rest of the pitching staff, because Lord knows we're gonna need that, especially down the stretch.
Absolutely.
Well, let's talk about some positive here. Jordan frickin' Walker. Where the hell has this been, from our lineup? Obviously, it was, in Double-A last year, but he is on a 12-game hitting streak. For anybody that does not know, that ties the record for the longest hitting streak to start a career by a player 20 and younger, and it ties the mark set in 1912 by Eddie Murphy. I didn't know Eddie Murphy was that old, but
Eddie Murphy, before his acting career, he was actually playing baseball. So yeah,
exactly,
he was back there with Ty Cobb and all the guys.
He did the reverse Michael Jordan.
Absolutely, yeah. So I'm hoping that he can actually break that record then tonight. So I know it's getting late into the game right now. It's in the 7th, so hopefully he gets the chance to keep it alive, and then he can start chasing the next record after that, which that might be as far as hits for a rookie in general, starting a season. So
about to say,
I think it's like 16 or 17.
The overall record has actually been done twice. It was originally set by Chuck Alano in 41. It was matched in 16 by David Dahl. With 17 games.
17.
So he's got a little bit more to go, but obviously the way he's been hitting, he definitely looks like he's got a chance to be able to to be able to hit that. OJ, I'll start with you here. Do you think that, he's got a chance here to be able to get to 18 and break that record?
I mean, why not? I mean, look, it's not like if you look at the list of guys that have like the longest hitting streaks to start their careers, a lot of them aren't like super good players, so it definitely seems more like it's a luck thing than anything else. So yes, he does have a chance.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, and I definitely think that he's got a chance to be able to break it for 20 and under, so to speak, especially because we're going up against the Pirates. You know what I mean? The Pirates definitely don't have great pitching. And definitely don't have great defense either, just by the metrics and stuff like that. So if you progress it, say, okay, we got a 3-game series against the Buccos. If he gets a hit in all 3 of those games, all of a sudden this 12 turns into 15, and it's like, oh, okay, well, he's on the doorstep. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, definitely he could. And I think it's 4 games against the Pirates, right? But
Well, is it a 4-game series?
I believe so.
It is. Yep.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it goes through Sunday.
So even better.
Yeah, exactly.
Even better.
Yeah.
So he could be at 16.
Yeah, we'll see. He's already had 2 so far into this game. Like I said, we're in the 7th. He's had 2 plate appearances and unfortunately struck out. So once, but anyway.
Yeah.
We're already in
no
the
hits.
7th?
We're already in the 7th, and the Pirates are up 1-0. Yep.
Of course they are. Jeez.
But it looks like Walker is going to be coming up due hopefully in the next, whenever we hit the bottom of the 7th here. So I'll keep you posted if anything occurs.
Absolutely.
So Adam, I'll ask you this one too. Do you think that this hitting streak and all, like, when everyone's talking to him, oh, you can make history tonight and stuff like that, for a young rookie, do you think that kind of is maybe getting him a little bit more nervous when it comes to the plate? I mean, he seems
certainly
to
be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, it certainly can be, especially whenever, you feel like, okay, all the eyes are on him, because obviously a lot of people are tuning in, just to obviously, they're trying to see if history be made, and there's, he's in the headlines and whatnot. So I'm sure it's putting some amount of pressure on him, to secure that or whatever. But hopefully he's just having fun with it. It is what it is. More like to OJ's point, it's not like it's one of those stats that are going to prove you out as far as if you're a phenomenal player or not, at the end of his career per se. But it is fun to watch for sure, especially whenever you're starting out your career and you're already coming out here and with breaking 100-year records potentially. So it's cool. Definitely excited to see his future, but it's one of those things that, while it is exciting, it's not like I'm hung up on it, it's more, hey, let's have fun with it and see if you get it. And if you can break the record or not, but if not, hey, you had one hell of a good run of hitting 12, and which is a 100-year record. So good for you, man.
Yeah. It's definitely a cool record to have. So.
For sure.
Especially if you can get, like, the hit tonight, right, to separate yourself out as well. It would be nice to see yours, especially it being so young and starting your career, to have some list where you're on top of that list. You know what I mean? And again, to your point, OJ, obviously those players weren't the greatest, you know what I mean? But just as you said, Adam, it's a confidence boost to that, right? It's like, you know what, I do deserve to be up here. I know there's lots of talks about me going to AAA, and maybe there's things I need to work at, but at least I know I'm hitting exactly. Yeah.
And I'm not saying that all of them are like bad players. I'm just saying it's not like a bunch of Hall of Famers on there or anything. You know what I mean?
No, for sure. And that's what I
yeah, I mean, literally, we found out
the exception
because of this whole thing. We found out that Eddie Murphy was apparently a baseball player 100 years ago or 100 plus years ago. So anyway.
Which, by the way, so they talked about that on the MLB Network. And so I don't know if it was fake or not, but essentially it was the two hosts were like, and so he's actually tied the record that was set by this guy, and showed a picture of the background with Eddie Murphy. And they're like, so they were laughing about it, and they're just like, yeah, they're just like, oh, that's pretty funny. I didn't know he played baseball, blah, blah, blah. And then the other host is like, oh, yeah, I mean, I've known him for a while. He loves playing baseball and stuff like that. He's like, well, let me call him real quick. Hold on. Let's get him on the line. Let's get him on the line. So he made this whole thing about calling him. And then you hear, and I'm hoping, I would love to believe that's truly Eddie Murphy. But he goes, so Eddie, it sounds like this rookie Jordan Walker's tied your record. And then the voice on the phone, in a very, if it is an imitation, was very good of Eddie Murphy, goes, that's the wrong Eddie Murphy. Click. It was pretty funny, like the way they did it. But yeah, so at least they're having fun with it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah.
Let me ask you guys actually too, while we're on the topic of like hitting streaks, because I just thought about this. Do you think anybody will ever catch up to Joe DiMaggio?
Probably
like
not.
What I mean by that, the 56 hitting game.
Yeah. I don't think so.
I think it's truth. From me deep down, I really believe it's one of those untouchable, records. Just like Gretzky's overall point record in NHL. Unless we see somebody that comes in literally just treats it like can play the game like, oh, he's playing, NHL 23. You know what I mean? Like he's like out there just playing a video game. I don't see that ever getting touched on because again, this is kind of common knowledge, but it's kind of crazy. But he has more assists than the second person on the list has points, which goals and assists. So it's
definitely
just,
one of those
nuts.
unbreakable records, that we see on, like most career hits or most home runs in a career. Those things are going to be probably not. We're not going to see those ever again, more than likely.
I think the game has just evolved too much.
It has, for sure.
The pitchers are way more efficient. They're way more masters of their craft, and not to mention too, but fielders themselves are way more athletic. We see players doing just crazy things and diving, and they make it look normal and easy, and it's anything but. But that's just because that's what they've been doing for their entire lives. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, we see a lot of those old records and things, that occurred back in the day. But, I think that, like you said, Josh, a lot of that has to do with the way that, the pitching and things have improved significantly over time as well. Back when we had, players that were, kind of stocky like Babe Ruth that could hit these kind of ridiculous records and whatnot. But yet, nowadays, if, he were to come up per se, would he, be, I'm not just trying to disgrace his name, but would he actually be of equivalent of, I don't think that he could probably compete in today's Major League Baseball because, just of his build, whatnot as well.
I think that he would be phenomenal at DHing, but I definitely think him in right field, which was his primary position, he would definitely be minus of the defensive metrics for sure.
For sure.
He'd have probably been in way better shape if he plays in this day and age, though, too.
Yeah, for sure. Wasn't drinking a beer and eating a hot dog before every game.
Yeah, no doubt.
But things have obviously changed, you know what I mean? But no one can deny his hitting approach too.
For
you know
sure.
what I mean? Like the way that he was able he had an eagle eye up there, and a lot of people don't really give him the credit, but he drew quite a few walks too, and had a relatively low strikeout rate because he was just able to see the ball really well too, and that's obviously goes into hitting the ball quite a bit.
Sure.
Yeah. So let's move on to the next topic here for Cardinals here, and that's about pitching help here. I'm just going to ask some more general question here, but OJ, we'll start with you here. I'm going to ask you two questions, and we'll go to you, Adam, for your opinions on this. But
okay.
Is it time to call somebody up maybe to like help this struggling rotation, or is this the right time for the Cardinals to even pursue a trade? What are your thoughts? Is it too early, or what's your thoughts on that, OJ?
It's probably too early to solidify a trade just because most teams aren't sure what they've got yet. So they're going to want a lot of things to play out. But yeah, I mean, I'd say we're getting to the point where you might call somebody up. It kind of depends how Woodford is the next time through. Although you got Wainwright coming back soon, but certainly Liberator, the way he's performing in AAA, he's making a real strong case to have him up here in the rotation. So
isn't that funny though too? Because right, they were talking about how Woodford had such a good spring training, but ever since the season actually started, he's been pretty dismal. And here comes Liberator, who had a, let's just say, okay or maybe slightly below average on the spring training, but now that the season's actually started, he's tearing it over. He's tearing it up. So it's just interesting how fortunes change like that.
Yeah. I mean, part of what's behind it is Liberator got a couple miles per hour faster on his four-seamer. Well, both of his fastballs, I guess, actually. So, like, they both play way better now, and they have less. I know the four-seamer has less horizontal drop, so which is good for a fastball. For a fastball, the less it breaks downwards, the more it kind of like appears to rise in the batter's eye, and so you get that's how you get a lot of people to swing under stuff. So his fastball is a lot more effective, and he's got like really good numbers to go along with his good ERA and FIP and stuff. Like his ERA is like 1 something, and then
1.18.
Yeah, yeah. So you're the pitcher and it down in AAA. and his FIP and XFIP are also like in the low 2s. So by any measure, he's pitching incredibly well. So definitely he's going to earn a shot at some point, and it may be whether Wainwright has to come back first and prove that he's ineffective or wait for another injury or what. He will get a shot this season, and hopefully he takes advantage of it.
For sure. And speaking to you're talking about the four seam and it's not dropping just straight down. It's about that predictability, right? So that was one thing when I was pitching. It's not like I pitched at a very high level or anything like that, but I understood obviously, how to pitch. But when I threw my four seam, I always gripped a little bit stronger on my, my left end, on my right hand, but my index fingers on the left side of the ball. And the reason for that was that when I threw it, it would dip down slightly and almost kind of like slide out. Like it was kind of like a really like weak slider, so to speak. But it would dip down and kind of go away from the batter on the right hand, or it'd run inside. But it's not that predictability of just the, the straight path that just drops down a little bit. I mean, you can do that with a two-seam fastball as well. But it's a little bit more risky because with a two-seam fastball, obviously you're just typically try to throw it as hard as you can. There's not as much movement onto it. And if you put more pressure, the ball will fly out of your hand and it will go, it's not as like minute of a movement and stuff like that. But I think that is something that, again, we actually just talked about that, at least me specifically with Michaelis, that that predictability, I think, is necessarily there, or that is there right now, and he's not getting that unpredictability with his pitches and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, it's a very good point, OJ, that it could be that when Wainwright comes back, he's gonna have to prove himself, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see what Waino can do. But Adam, let's go to you here. I'm going to ask you the same questions here. Is it time to call somebody up, or should the Cardinals be looking for a trade? I mean, is it the right time to do that?
I definitely think what we should be looking is calling somebody up, not necessarily for trades. We have, for example, Gordon Graceffo, who is in AAA right now. I think one of our prospects that we picked up a couple years back in the draft, and he actually just had an outing earlier this week, and he actually put up some decent numbers. I mean, looking overall, it looks like he struck out 6 while allowing no hits in 4 innings of work overall. And looking at, overall from what the prospect ratings on Major League Baseball saying as well, they're ranking him 4th, for all players, the Cardinals or and with a potential ETF coming up this year. So he's 23, 6'4", 210, and throws right-hander. I think that, maybe there's some potential prospects that we can, think about bringing up in addition to seeing if, Waino has a good, good comeback or not. But I don't think that we're in the ballpark here for any trades yet. I think it's too early for that. I don't think there's really going to be trade partners that are too serious about it, honestly.
Yeah, and to OJ's point, I think it's teams don't know what they have. So all this talk about trading O'Neill to a team for starting pitching, I don't see that. If it does happen, I think it's closer to the trade deadline. If it'll be like a couple weeks before the trade deadline.
And I think a lot of that was just due to the drama and whatnot that came up as well.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of that's been kind of run under the bridge too. So.
Sure. Yeah. OJ, go ahead.
Part of the reason for that is because like Adam was saying, we got plenty of minor leaguers. Like the only pitcher we would even want to make a trade for right now would be like an ace, your top of the rotation ace guy, which is what we're lacking really. Mm-hmm. You can definitely you can have your pick of like okay, mediocre pitchers from our minors and what we've got on the big league staff right now. Mm-hmm. So but we need like a Sandy Alcantara. So that's the kind of trade I don't think the Marlins are going to trade him, but the Marlins outfield situation is just terrible. Like it's alarming, I think you'd say. So they definitely need outfield help. So and they have a lot of pitchers that are good pitchers. So like, what can you get for Tyler O'Neill? Who knows? Especially if he has a good like half a season or something, right? But
Yeah, for sure. But again, I definitely agree with both of you guys that it's probably a little too early to be, looking at the trade. I mean, hell, we've only played. This is our 13th game
Yeah,
that we're playing,
don't
right?
sound the alarms
Yeah.
yet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
So
maybe
while
you
it is
can get something
concerning,
for Burleson.
yeah,
I mean, I
while it
think
is
that's the
concerning,
reason Burleson plays so much is because they're trying to get his value up there. Yeah, so
yeah,
they
they're
can
trying to show
trade
him
him
off.
away.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Sorry,
Yeah, I
Adam,
definitely
didn't
believe.
cut you off.
Yeah, I definitely believe that Burleson was like trade bait, so to speak, at the beginning of the season because really, like Burleson's like skill set is already like we already have that skill set. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
About players that are coming up, and to me, he was like a guy that was going to be like the fifth rotation in the outfield, and maybe get some
Yeah.
DH role every once in a while. But
But now
is
you
what it
got
is right
Dylan
now.
Corbin terrorizing everybody. So.
Yeah, no kidding. Where the hell did that come from?
I told you guys in the spring. I told you he was looking
Yes,
impressive.
you did. Well, it's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, we'll see how the season continues to progress here for the Cardinals. We'll go from that. So let's skip on over to a different team here. Let's talk about some Battlehawks. Good call to you. Good call.
Good call.
Last
the call
week
is
was
the law, and we had a hell of a win. Wow.
God, what a comeback win.
Nuts.
With your
the
backup.
first OT. Yeah, with your backup, which who, by the way, is now injured.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, he was out, and then we also had one of our I forgot who it was, but on our D line that was also out, I think, as well.
Oh no, we had 5 defensive players.
Did we have
out
5? Holy shit.
Yeah.
That it was looking really, really, really rough for sure.
Yeah, because you and I were sitting there going, how the hell? Because obviously, you and I have season tickets. We're like, our defense is normally much better than this. What the hell is going on? Well, it turned out that we were missing 5 of our starting defensemen, and 2 of those were linebackers. So it's like, okay, well, no wonder they're able to just run the ball straight up the middle every single time.
Yeah.
And I do believe that's something that the XFL needs to work on is injury reports, because obviously we did not.
Yeah, we didn't. No one knew about it.
All that, we didn't even know that AJ McCarron, the starting quarterback, and like
we just
one
didn't
of the big
see him out there
in the XFL
practicing.
Yeah,
we're like, where the hell is he? Yeah. And there were some guys behind us. Literally, the game started, and they're like, they're shouting for McCarron, and we're like, he's out.
Damn it, McCarron! It's like,
and I'm like, he's not playing. I was like, you don't see him out there.
They're like, who the hell is this guy? They're like, it's Nick Tiano?
Yeah, Tiano or
it's
something like that. Yeah.
It's like Tiano with a T, so Tiano.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, he's from Chattanooga. Oh my God.
It was funny. But yeah. So the fact that, and we actually, I'm going to go ahead and just credit the fact that we ended up saying, you know what, we're going to just get out of here while we're down. Mm-hmm. And we ended up going to Hot Shots because we ended up tying the game, and we ended up watching it at Hot Shots. The comeback, the first actual ever XFL overtime ever. Yeah. And so that was actually kind of a cool, now that we actually got to see it, obviously I've read about it on paper, so to speak, but to actually see it play out, I thought, the overtime was kind of cool, how it all worked out.
Sure. I definitely like that. It was a little confusing that it's like, oh, it's 2-point conversions rather than like touchdowns and stuff like that. But it's like, okay, it makes more sense. It's
kind of like a crossover of shootouts and hockey meets, football, so to speak. It's like the best of 3.
In a sense, yeah. And I did read into why they decided. So like instead of it counting as a touchdown, they count it as 2-point conversions. There's 2 reasons for it. One, so that way it's consistently on the 5-yard line because they're used to that, obviously, with the 2-point conversions. And makes also, sense. So it's not like if a game goes to OT, you just like throw your hands up on the under over, because there's so much betting that goes into football.
Yeah,
especially XFL and NFL. So that's the reason why they said that the XFL does it the way they do. So that way, like the point spread and like the under over and stuff like that is not as affected as much, because that in college sports, I can tell you, does happen a lot.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there was a game it wasn't this past season, but the season before, it was the Tar Heels, and I want to say it was Syracuse, and they went to OT, and it was like, I'm not joking, there was like 9 OTs, and like they scored 7 touchdowns out of that. And it's like, yeah, so like, and the game going into that was 14-14. And all of a sudden here, now the score looks like it was just a boat race, and even though it really wasn't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. But
I
definitely think it's going to be
exciting. So.
Yeah, for sure. And they're welcome for us walking on winning, because once I pulled it up on my phone, really as we got in the car, like, holy crap, I just tied this game up.
And I'm like, no way.
Well,
so you're literally watching the
up,
game in the parking garage. Like, this is nuts.
As we're leaving.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
At least we beat the traffic, so that's one way to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I'm like, damn it, why didn't we stay? And but you reminded me, if we would have stayed, we would have lost. So
if we would have stayed, we would have lost.
Yep.
Sports
but I'm definitely looking
man.
forward. Yep, I was going to say, but I'm definitely looking forward to, because with us winning and then DC winning over Seattle last week, that puts us a game. Yeah, it gives us definitely a step closer to the playoffs for sure. And of course, here comes a really big game for us, because we're going to be actually playing the Seattle Sea Dragons this Sunday in St. Louis, and so that'll be a big game for us. So, and it looks like we'll hopefully have McCarron back as well.
It does sound like he will be back. And actually, so there is some interesting news too. So since Tiana went out, we actually signed Vinny Testaverde's son.
Oh yeah, I heard that today.
Junior. Yeah, he's going to be the backup going into the game. So it sounds like AJ McCarron is good to go. However, there is still we haven't got it confirmed one way or the other.
Mm-hmm. Apparently the guy that we signed, his if you didn't know, his dad actually played a lot of football back in the day.
Yeah, Vinny Testaverde for the Jets.
Yeah,
oh yeah,
absolutely,
like, big name.
Yep. So.
Yep. Yeah, like I've known of the name Vinny Testaverde for a very long time, but yeah, he was he wasn't like a Hall of Fame quarterback, but he was a pretty good quarterback.
He was, honestly, overall his stats, they actually were pretty good. He didn't really, like you said, win a lot of awards per se, but he was pretty solid though.
To me, he was kind of like a Ben Roethlisberger, and yes, Ben Roethlisberger will get into Canton into the Hall of Fame, but Ben Roethlisberger, the only reason why is because he won 2 Super Bowls. You know what I mean? Like that, to me, that's the only reason why I think he's going to get in. And it was a bigger name at the time. But Vinny Testaverde had very similar stat line. He did, and also he didn't play as long as Big Ben, but that's neither here or there.
So anyway,
looking at the preview here, I'm just going to run some stats by you guys and kind of get your feelings on this. So I wanted to kind of try to compare the teams, because it's really hard to do that, with the stats being the way they are. But anyways. So the Battlehawks are currently the number 4 passing team, or 4th passing team in the XFL. When you look at overall stats, we got 1,681 yards, 19 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. The Sea Dragons on that list ranked number 3, 1,728 yards, so more yards there, 15 touchdowns, so less touchdowns. And the reason why they're ranked so low is that they have 10 interceptions. So Ben DeLuca has thrown 15 touchdowns and 10 interceptions, which is not great. We are the number 5 rushing team in the XFL, 698 yards, 3 touchdowns, which I thought we had more, but only 3 rushing touchdowns. But we do have 4.2 yards per carry. The Sea Dragons are the number 3. They have 712 yards rushing, 6 touchdowns, 4.4 on yards per carry. So they beat us in a lot of those categories. When you take a look here on the defensive side of things, this is where we get to be. We're just better than the Sea Dragons. We're ranked the number 4th defense. We have 13 sacks, 41 tackles for losses, 8 forced fumbles, 10 fumble recoveries, and then 7 total takeaways. That's including total takeaways. Excuse me. That's interceptions specifically. The Sea Dragons are the 6th ranked defense, 16 sacks, so they have 3 more than us. But they're 37 tackles for loss. They have 8 forced fumbles as well, but they've only recovered 4, where we have 2 over our forced fumble recovery, and they only have 3 interceptions as well. So I think that the game really is going to come down to, can our defense stop their offense, and can our offense
be close,
beat up defense? Yeah.
Well, if you remember week 2, when we played against, and we ended up beating them out, but it was a really, really, really close one, and
it was a comeback again.
We actually ended up. There was a big comeback. We thought, okay, this one's done and over with, but it was another comeback for the Battlehawks.
Yeah. Last second field goal.
Yeah. And so to speak. Yeah, we're the comeback kids. So So I think so my money's going to be on the Battlehawks, but I think it's going to be a very close one going all the way to the end. Yeah. So I think this game will definitely come down to probably be decided by a field goal. It's going to be a really close one for sure. So I'm excited for it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't know if it'll come down to a field goal per se, but obviously we don't even know. I mean, the XFL is so crazy when it comes to like points and stuff like that. It's going to be interesting for sure to see how.
I still think it's going to be a really close game for sure.
Well, I think so as well, but we might be able to pull away at the end. Who knows? That's the biggest thing about it.
I guess we'll find out Sunday, right?
Right. OJ, what's your thoughts on the game here coming up? Obviously, I know that you're probably excited for it because obviously, there's a lot that rides on this game. Do the Sea Dragons, do they scare you at all? Like, what's your thought process here coming into this game?
No, I mean, we've beaten them twice now, I believe. So
no,
not really. I thought we played them twice.
I think just once.
Twice. No. Okay.
Yeah, this will be our second time against them. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry then. So
all good.
Yeah. No, I'm not really that scared of them because we beat them before. As long as we got McCarron, I mean, if we have to play Testaverde's kid, I'm not sure how I like those odds. Of course,
right, I'm with you there.
Maybe he could just become a legend. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and
the
also
junior goes to the junior league.
Yeah, and I'm also concerned about our defensive line as well. Hopefully that they're healthy and make a return as well. For most of those guys, make a return because obviously that's going to be pivotal for us to try to keep that score down. So I think that's going to be very important for us. Well, it is important that McCarron's back. I think that it's going to be even more important for our D line to show up. Because that's usually, I'll be honest with you, what usually bails us out more times than often, in these games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when McCarron's not being able to get the ball, to the receivers, or there's drops and stuff like that, looking at you, Butler. I almost said Bucker. I'm so used to yelling at Bucker for missing field goals.
Yeah, been there, done that. Yeah. Hey, were you? Yeah.
So funny. No, man.
Anyway, so OJ, because we know you don't watch the NFL, but Bucker is the kicker for Kansas City Chiefs, and so he didn't have a very good season this year, and he missed quite a few easier field goals. But
I got that through context clues.
Yeah, right. But he did win. But he did win us the Super Bowl. He did.
He did. You're right. He definitely won it. So
yeah. But anyways, I think that the defense has definitely bailed us out on that. And I think that was one of the things that we were definitely missing last week. But honestly, like now knowing what we know, I think the defense actually played very admirably when you're missing half of your starting team essentially on defense. You know what I mean? I think that really gives them quite a bit of a boost going into, okay, everybody can do these roles. And now the people that get more like rotational or limited snaps and stuff like that are going to be having way more confidence in there because they just did it for an entire game. So,
right.
Definitely excited about that. If we look at the playoff scenario here, so it's pretty simple, guys, honestly. So there are, several tiebreakers for the XFL. The first tiebreaker is head-to-head matchup, right? Now, so essentially here, if we win, there's no way at all Seattle can even catch up to us because we would have the tiebreaker over them as well. And we would be 2 games above them with 1 game remaining. So essentially, we win here week 9 against Seattle, we're in the playoffs. If we lose to Seattle, then we must win against Orlando. We would end up tied with Seattle. However, we would both have a 1-1 record against ourselves, but they do have the point differential in divisional play. That is the second tiebreaker, and we are much higher than they are in that list. So I feel very comfortable on that. So essentially, when obviously you want to win out because you do legitimately have a chance of catching up to DC for the number 1 overall seed and having a home game for the playoffs. And could you imagine a home playoff game in St. Louis?
That would be nuts. Yeah, the odds
crazy.
The odds of that happening are 6.25% right now, as far as if we go 2-0 and DC goes 0-2, and where we'd be hosting DC. But man, that would be epic. the most likely situations where we're going to be, in second place alone, where we beat out Seattle, or even if Seattle Seattle loses to Vegas in week 10, we would, automatically assume the second place.
Correct. So at this point, the only way that we can really lose and not get into the playoffs is if we lose out to Seattle and to Orlando, which Orlando is one of the worst teams in the league. And so if that happens, we go 0-2 and Seattle beats us because obviously we were, that would have to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then they beat Vegas. That's the only way that they would get in to the playoffs. Now, I mean, theoretically, they could, curb stomp us by 50 points and all of a sudden catch up to us in the divisional point differential and stuff like that. That is still technically on the table, but it doesn't look very likely in that aspect of things, But essentially with the Battlehawks, yeah, exactly. Win and you're in. And I definitely think that we're poised to be able to go in there and win. It's a home game.
Absolutely.
So again, I'm hoping we get real loud. It would be really nice if we could somehow catch up to DC, because I'm telling you, we would get over the 40,000 plateau in a heartbeat.
For sure. I mean, and speaking of which, I mean, not to dive into that topic too much, but we've been seeing overall the numbers, stay relatively consistent for attendance as well. I think week 4 when we were, it's our home opener, it was around 38,500, give or take. And then I think the last, couple weeks has been around like 35, 36 ish, so they've been 35,000 plus for every game so far. So it's been a good showing.
Because we talked about that going into the game last week, that it was on Easter weekend. So I felt that there wasn't going to be as many people there.
And they still had folks up in the 400s. They were still selling in the 400s. So, yeah, I was really impressed.
But we're not a football town at all. I hope you're listening, Cronky. Get off my channel.
Little bitch.
Pretty much. So OJ, hold up real quick. Sorry, Adam. You would have loved this. There was a dude, and they showed on the Jumbotron that dressed up as Stan Kroenke, and everyone just starts booing him. And somebody behind him was throwing popcorn at him the entire time. It was freaking hilarious. And obviously, you're not going to pour beer on the guy or anything like that, because he's obviously doing that to, to get people to boo at him. But it was funny to see people throwing, just popcorn and food at him. And he just stand there like he didn't care. It was hilarious.
Yeah, he's folding his arms with his sunglasses on. Yeah, I wanted to bring that up because I thought that was great that we're all having fun with it as well. And obviously, they recognize that, and it was good times. In fact, I literally found the dude on Reddit, so I'll have to share at least maybe with the listeners as well. This guy. So
apparently he was going around and signing, because he was over in he was on the 50-yard line on to our right. I don't know what section that would be, but apparently he was signing people's shirts that said, and he was doing it as Stan Kroenke, but he was signing the shirts that say Stan Kroenke sucks cacaw. That's awesome. Good for this guy. I was it's just so damn funny.
Yep.
But, so I mean, hopefully he doesn't come back, but he does come back. I don't know. It's one of those things.
Hey, if it's the rally thing, get us all. At least we're having fun with it. Where we can, all get behind hating on the Kroenke, which every single time, there's usually a Kroenke sucks chant that breaks out. So,
dude, so much, and I always try to do some parodies for Kroenke sucks, as you know, and they never catch on. But whatever, one of these days, I tell you. If this dude is a season ticket holder, he needs to get somebody that's going to role play as Roger Goodell next to him, because that would be fucking hilarious. Because both of those guys, oh man.
Get somebody dressed up as Kevin Demoff just going down on Kroenke the whole time.
Right. Yeah, pretty much. Not really family fun, but that would be pretty damn funny.
That would be hilarious.
The thing is, you don't even have to show him actually doing anything. He's just has knee pads and lipstick on.
Yeah. And he's got running mascara.
Bleeding mascara, dude.
But at that point, do you recognize him as Kevin Demoff? He would need a shirt that says "I'm Kevin Demoff."
That's the only way I would recognize him as Kevin Demoff.
Fair enough.
Oh shit. Anyways, all right, let's move off of that here, guys. Let's get to the other new team in St. Louis and talk a little bit about STLSC. I want to talk here about the Cincinnati preview game because that is a big game coming up. Cincinnati is 5-2-0. What that means is they're 5 wins, 2 ties, 0 losses. So they have 17 points, which we're obviously 5-0-2 with the 2 losses, 15 points. And Cincinnati right now is the number 1 team out in the East, where we are the number 2 team in the West, behind Seattle here. I'm just going to throw some numbers real quick for you guys, and then we'll talk about this game specifically. But St. Louis here, we are tied for second in the league with 15 goals. We are tied for 13th with 8 goals against us. We're number 4 in that goal differential department with 7. We are, though, out of 27 teams that are in the MLS, we're 25 25th in pass completion percentage at 72.6, which is terrible. We're tied for 13th with 26 shots against. We're tied for 11th with 2 clean sheets. We are tied for 14th, which actually, by the way, the 11th, though, is like, it's really not that, it's for the clean sheets, it's really not that far behind. It just looks so massive, but everybody's kind of grouped up there in the, in that portion. But anyways, we're 14th in save percentage. This one blew my mind. Our save percentage is only 69.2%, which is abysmal. But we are tied, though, in 6th with 84 interceptions. What that means, obviously, is intercepting passes and breaking up plays and stuff. Cincinnati, they are tied for 8th with 9 goals. They are number 4 in goals against with only 4. They're number 6 in goal differential with 5. They are tied for 10th in pass completion percentage with 81.8. They are tied with 8th with only 23 shots against them. They are tied for 1st with clean sheets. They have 5 freaking clean sheets so far this game. Out of 7 games, they have 5 clean sheets. That goes into the next 2 stats, which are their 5th in save percentage with 82.6%, and they're not very far off from number 1. They are the number 1 team in interception defense. They have 97 interceptions. So this team is going to be very good in like the litmus test that we talked about prior with, Seattle and stuff like that. I really think the Cincinnati team is, I do believe it's a team we could beat, but it's going to be difficult.
It's going to be really tough, for sure.
They're a very good defensive team, and they handle the ball very well. OJ, we'll start with you here. What's your, what are you most fearful of the Cincinnati team? And do you think that, STLSC can actually do some damage and walk away with the 3 points?
Well, I certainly am worried because I think the Seattle game shows what happens when we play against a team that is actually sound defensively and everything. Like, if we can't exploit their defense, then we can wind up looking pretty ugly. So, I don't know. It's going to be tough. Is this a home game or an away game?
It's a home game.
Is it a home? Yeah, it is. You're right.
That helps us a lot. Like,
you're
right. Yeah, they do. Yeah, you're right.
Because actually,
MLS does it backwards. Yeah, normally the right team is the home team for every other freaking sport, but in soccer it's backwards. The first team on the list is the home team, so that's the left side of the team.
Yeah.
But OJ, go on. Sorry.
Well, I was just saying. Apparently, in MLS, home field advantage is actually a really big factor. So, like, if you're away, like, you basically are happy with a tie, like, no matter who you're playing. As long if you get at least a tie, you're like, that was a pretty good result if you're away. So it being home actually does help us a lot. Maybe we can eke a tie out of it, but I think it's going to be really tough for us to beat them. Unless St. Louis has maybe learned something from the last couple of matches and comes out with some different ideas to try. I don't see him winning this game.
It's definitely going to be very difficult for sure. I'm not 100% on this one either that we're going to be able to walk away with it. But, Adam, what are your thought processes here? What's got you scared about Cincinnati, and, do we have a chance to get those 3 points?
Well, I mean, going off of what OJ was saying there, looking at their record, obviously at home they are, unstoppable. They've won 4 all at home. They have not tied. They have not lost. Obviously they don't have any losses, but they haven't tied there either. Whereas away, they've only won once and tied twice. So maybe there is something there. Maybe their head coach, who actually went to DeSmet, will throw us a bone, like our buddy down in Austin. So that gave us an own goal, so to speak.
Yeah.
So maybe Pat Noonan will throw us a bone, so that'll be hopeful, but I doubt it. I don't feel very good about this game, I'll be honest with you, but we'll see.
Yeah, and that kind of leads me in here to the next question that I have specifically around STLSC. Are we heading for a decline? Obviously, we've lost 2 games in a row. Now, one of those teams in Seattle is the number 1 team in the West, and they are a legit team. We're now facing a legit team out of the East. But are we all of a sudden going to start coming down to earth? Adam, I'll start with you. What's your thought process here around this? Do you think that, okay, we're the lovable losers or whatever, the rook or whatever, first time luck or whatever, that's starting to pass, and we're starting to see this team for what it truly is now?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we got off to a phenomenal start, a start that, obviously none of us were expecting. But a lot of people were predicting that eventually things would, start coming around, especially as our schedule get a little harder per se. So I'm not surprised that, we've had a couple losses now. We didn't expect that we were going to go on, this, 8-10 game winning streak for sure. The fact that we did, get as far as we did, is, speaks volume, especially for a brand new team, expansion team.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously our schedule is getting a little harder for sure. Right now we were talking about, Seattle and Cincinnati, and I think we're playing Colorado after this. So it is definitely a harder schedule right now, but at the end of the day, I still think that we have a real shot at, making the playoffs for sure this year. We won't, wind up in first, I don't think, but I think that we still will have a decent shot at it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that if you look at the next 5 games, obviously Cincinnati is our next game. We're at Colorado the next week. That they're 11th in the West. Then we're at home versus Portland the following week, 12th in the West. Then we go to Dallas. They're number 4 in the West, so that would be a good challenge for us. And then we are at Chicago. Screw Chicago. But anyways, they're 6th and they're 6th in the East, which the East does look a little weaker than the West for the 7 games that we've seen so far. So I do think that we have like a little bit of an easier schedule coming up. But it's going to be interesting for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the last, Cincinnati and Seattle are like, they're like the cream of the league, of the class. They're the top of the class, I should say, in the league.
Yeah.
Like absolute tippy top tier.
Yeah, you're literally facing week after week, the number 1 in each conference. So it's like, yeah.
Yeah, so like they're very, very good teams, and we played Seattle away too, so it's not really that surprising that we wouldn't look very good against them. So, hopefully we look better against Cincinnati since we're at home, but I don't think like all of a sudden we're gonna like miss the playoffs or anything like that. I think that this team is still good. They should still win more than they lose, and with the hot start they had, that should be enough to get them in.
I agree with you. I think that's sure. OJ, to that point, that hot start, I think, is going to be the key in getting into it. As we had Danny on last week, he said, typically when you get around the 40-point plateau, that's typically when you're in, and we're already at 15. And even though we've lost 2 games in a row, we are number 2 in the West. You know what I mean? So that's saying a lot. We just got to be able to get some results, and hopefully instead of getting, the 2 games we lost, we definitely lost. It wasn't like a heartbreaker in the 89th minute kind of thing, right?
Yeah, we almost drew Minnesota. There was actually one of our guys got the ball in his foot with like a wide open net late in the game and just skied it over the net. It was awful.
Yeah, but you see what I'm saying? We still got outworked that game. And obviously they didn't play this type of style that we would have liked them to have played. so we can, play out in the counter and stuff like that. But,
Yeah,
it is what it is, man.
Yeah, I wouldn't say they outworked us because they don't really work. That's not the style of play they play. The Minnesota, they just kind of sit back and chill and wait for you to provide them opportunities. So
yeah, which we did, unfortunately. But
yeah.
It is what it is. Again, I do think that there's going to be better games coming down the stretch. So, I do believe that we will eventually, be able to, definitely get in the playoffs. And I do believe this team might be, be able to finish in the top 4, let alone the top 6 going into the postseason. Sure. So, we'll have to, take a look at that and keep going on. But, it's still exciting times, even though we've come down to earth a little bit, if we can keep up with these teams, like Seattle, if we lose to Seattle by 1, obviously we didn't, but if we lose to, Cincinnati by 1 or whatever, you still sit there and go, okay, you know what? Hold your head high. They're good teams. You know what I mean? And we're new and we're still holding our own. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
So speaking of holding our own, let's talk some Blues here.
Oh boy. Last game of the season being played right now. It's almost wrapped up.
I know. Yeah. Thank God. So I don't even really want to talk about the Blues overall. I just want to talk about the draft here. So right now we're predicted to have the number 11th pick, 26th, and 27th pick. So this is what the mock drafts are getting into an average at. And I did look at 7 mock drafts, and this was the general consensus, right?
So are we pretty likely to finish outside the top 10 then? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Well, not necessarily. Well, we'll have to see. Obviously, we're still trailing in this game here. We'll have to see though too how some of these other teams are going to finish out. It's not a guarantee that we are going to be finishing 11th for sure. Obviously, with a loss tonight, with a loss tonight, for us that will definitely best our odds. And obviously, we have to see, how Washington, Detroit, Vancouver, how they all. They might be behind us as well.
This is just a predictor.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And so the consensus is that if we keep all of our picks, because obviously they're not, going to be playing that game of if we're trading picks and stuff. But if we keep the picks, number 11 will be God, I don't want to say Colby, but Colby Burlow, who plays wing, so he's left or right wing. That's for the 11th pick. The 26th pick would be Otto Stenberg, who plays center, right winger. And then the 27th pick would be Quentin Musty, who plays left wing. Now, my thoughts on that here, if that happens where we keep all 3 of our draft picks, I'm going to start with you, Adam. Do you really believe we're gonna draft 3 frickin' forwards in the first round?
No, I think we're going to use draft capital here for sure. And we're going to be making some moves with that, no doubt about it. We're going to be trading up, in my opinion, because obviously we have. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I definitely agree. I definitely think that there's an opportunity for us to be able to move up higher, in the draft, or to be able to use those draft picks to be able to get, talented veterans and stuff too.
Yeah, and obviously we have some needs for that, where and with this, I am excited. Obviously, with this draft, being rather deep, I am excited that we should be able to land a couple of really good players for sure. But I think that we definitely should trade up and just some wingers out of this draft. So we have some deeper needs in that.
Well, who's the top defenseman in the draft? Is there one that should go that high?
Yeah, and I should have written that down. Unfortunately, I was pressed for time, but we can actually take a look at that real quick. Give me 2 seconds. While I'm looking this up, OJ, let me just ask you. Do you think that's our number 1 need? Is defenseman going into the draft?
Well, our number 1 team need is defenseman. But even if we draft one, even in the first round, you're probably not going to see that defenseman for quite a while. So if they're really trying to make it a quicker rebuild, then they're going to need to trade the picks or the prospects, right? So I think it might make more sense to just draft by best value.
Yeah, I'm looking, and it looks like Reinbacher, David Reinbacher.
Yeah, right-handed defenseman out of Sweden. Switzerland.
Where they
excuse
have
me.
him going?
12th overall to the Coyotes. So that would make sense because that's literally the pick right after us for Colby Barlow.
So we could theoretically take that guy at 11 or something, right? I don't know. I assume that that's going to be a thing where it's a team preference because they're probably evaluated very similarly since they're only just going off those mocks where if people are taking 111th and 112th, it's not much of a difference.
Yeah, the interesting thing that goes into this too is when I was looking at what experts were saying about this draft being deep, and I wanted to make sure that I was understanding this going into it. It is a deep draft, but it's deep offensively. So maybe we do keep, maybe in those. So if we do keep all three, we do, draft 3 forward. And maybe look for a defenseman in the second draft because we do have some decently high draft picks in the second round too. I don't know, but that's where everyone's saying that this draft is deep. It is not deep for goaltending. In fact, goaltending is incredibly slim in this draft apparently, and defense is below average. It's just very, very heavy on the talent that's on the offensive side of things.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I don't know, but that's kind of where it sits at for the prediction. I think that next week we'll have a better idea of where we will sit at, because obviously everything will be finalized at that point in time, and then we can make this a longer segment going into what the Blues should do in the draft. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yep.
Yeah, because obviously there's just so much right now that we don't know, unfortunately.
Yeah, and obviously we have to go through the lottery too as well. So
for sure. Yep. And hopefully that we get in that top 10 because then we have an outside chance of being able to move
every
up
time, dude. I've gone on Tankathon. Literally one click, the Blues have always gotten the first spot. I sent over to you guys earlier.
If we end up somehow, end up with Connor Bedard, dude, it's going to be lights out.
That's what I'm saying. It's been so long since the Blues have had that kind of just superstar, bona fide Hall of Famer type of superstar. They haven't had that since Brett Hull.
Yeah,
they really haven't. And even then too, Brett, was before Adam Oates got into the team, showed a lot of inconsistency. A lot of that had to do with, off ice things like being drunk and all that stuff. But regardless, I'm not going to talk about that too much. But obviously he was phenomenal, and the closest thing that you can say that we have had to a Hall of Fame caliber player that was drafted by the Blues was either one or two, either Alex Pietrangelo or Vladimir Tarasenko, and I would lean more towards Alex Pietrangelo on that side of things. Like if you guys had to vote one of those guys in for the Hall of Fame, which one would it be? I mean, I'm going to put in Alex Pietrangelo. Yeah,
100% on Petro. I mean, I love that Vladdy all day, but
I don't know. Yeah, I think you guys are Ted Simmonsing. Well, I guess maybe if you're into counting stats, but you guys are kind of Ted Simmonsing Tarasenko here a little bit. Before his shoulder injury, remember during the entire course of his career, he was second in goals out of the entire league to only Alex Ovechkin. So that's a pretty important, role to have, right? Because goals are more important than assists by far. So having that kind of goal scoring overall is huge.
Exactly. That's it. Yeah, that's 100% correct. But the problem with it is he did injure his shoulder, and he injured it twice. He missed a lot of time. And Alex does a lot of things that does not show up on the stat sheet. And that to me is what we lost. When he walked away, we got Torrey Krug. Great. Torrey Krug can help us out on the power play and stuff like that. But he is not Alex Pietrangelo, and that shit is really showing now.
Yep. 100%. You got to look overall.
Even last year, Tarasenko scored 30-something goals. I mean, after his shoulder was hurt. Dude's one of just a super elite goal scorer. I think there's a case to be made for him too.
Listen, no. I'm OJ, you're 100% right. I do think that truly, when everything's said and done, I think that there's an argument that could be made for both of those players getting into the Hall of Fame. I'm just saying that if they both end up on the same ballot, which one am I going to put first down the sheet? Mm-hmm. And to me, that would be Petro. You know what I mean?
I think I'd take Tarasenko. So
again, to each their own, because as a guy that plays wing, to me that is where I would lean towards. But it's just that Petro does so much stuff that's intangible You know what I mean? When it comes to stat sheets and stuff like that, it's really hard for me to pass that up. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I get you. But I mean, I don't know. Tarasenko did a lot of stuff well too. He also was an elite passer.
Oh yeah.
Well, is still, I guess, an elite passer, and he could skate. And I don't know, just that goal scoring ability is just as hard to find as it is to find like a good defenseman. You know what I mean? At least
Sure. No, I'm definitely with you.
So yeah. But anyway, I guess that's it.
Yeah. Again, it comes down to preference and stuff like that as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right, guys. So let's move on to our last segment of the night here, and we're going to do something a little different. So the NBA playoffs have started, right? And out of the three of us, I'm probably the only guy that watches basketball, but I don't watch it like on a religious basis here. So I thought of a really fun thing that we can do, though, for us to be involved with the NBA playoffs without really knowing too much goes into it. It's going to be a game that we can play for bragging rights. Essentially, it's going to be a straw hat pick. So the play-in tournament is going on still. I think it actually goes tomorrow for the AC team. So currently, the way it sits is there's 18 total teams that are alive in the playoffs. That means that could be a total of 6 teams for each of us. What we're going to do is we're going to do a straw hat poll. I'm going to draw the order. And Walker went 0 for 4. Just getting a note here, Adam. You say you went 0 for 4 and the streak's over?
Yep, streak is over. Just FYI. So sad news to report. Looks like the Cardinals are going to lose as well. So the streak is
about right.
If they win, though, it probably would get back around to Jordan Walker. So
well, it's 5-0 Pirates, and I think that there's only like 1 out left. So there you go.
So you're saying there's a chance? Kidding?
There's a chance.
Yeah. Anyways, so
anyway,
what I'm
I just
going
thought
to do is
report. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to pull our names out of the hat, and essentially what that's going to do is just put us the order of the teams we draw. And it's just for fun, essentially, like whoever is standing at the end of the end and who wins the championship, whichever team is associated with that guy will end up, winning for bragging rights and stuff like that. Now, the kicker of this is I might pull out some teams here out of this hat where you're facing each other in the first round. You know what I mean? Or you could just be stacked with like really crappy teams that barely made it in. You know what I mean? But that's just, again, that's the whole point of the straw hat. So it's just completely like random and fair, so to speak. So
okay, sounds good to me.
You guys, you guys ready to go?
Let's do this.
All right, I want to pick our names. I got 2 different hats here, and I'm going to pick our names out first, and that's going to be our order. So with the first pick, it is going to be Adam. Adam, you got the first pick here.
Okay.
All right. I'm just writing everything down
not
for us as well.
Slytherin.
You're right. Second pick is myself, and that means OJ is our third picker. So I'll go ahead and take a name out of the hat here for you, Adam.
Okay.
And your first pick is, wow, this is actually a really good team, the Phoenix Suns. So the Suns are actually a really good team for the listeners and for you, Adam.
We're on the conference. So
in the Western Conference, but they also have Chris Paul. They have Devin Booker, and now they have Kevin Durant. So like that team is looking to like really set off for sure.
Yep.
Right.
So they're going to play the Clippers, I think. Or no, they did. They just did. No, right. Oh, they're getting ready to. Yeah. They're getting ready to. I think
that was the final game of the season was against the Clippers, so they're
that's right. Go back. Yep.
That is a 7-game series. And I just picked, and I got the Atlanta Hawks, which the Atlanta Hawks they're in, but they're a 7 seed, and they barely made it. They were 41-41 this season. They have Trae Young, which is a fantastic player, but not necessarily a team that's going to go out and, Yeah, exactly. And for OJ, you're in the same boat as me. You just got the Oklahoma City Thunder. So the Thunder came in as the 9th team. They came in the 9th team. They are currently still in the play-in tournament. So they have one game on Friday. If they lose that game, then they are out of the tournament. So it could be the first casualty there. Right. This is how this weird play-in tournament goes. All right, going back here for Adam. You got the Heat, Miami Heat.
Hey,
so Miami is also kind of in the same position here. They are in the play-in tournaments as well.
Yeah. They're actually playing tomorrow against Chicago, so we'll see.
Yep. And this one is for me. Oh, I got the New York Knicks. Great. Stephen A. Smith would be very happy. Knicks were fifth in the Eastern Conference, and kind of, he played more Knicks basketball this season compared to what they have in the past couple of seasons. But they're facing the Cavaliers, and the Cavaliers are a really good team.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh man, OJ gets the Celtics. That is one of the favorites to win it all, man. There you go, OJ. And you have Jason Tatum
going up against Austin.
Absolutely.
St. Louis's own Jason Tatum. So
one of the few people I know.
Yeah, exactly. Went to Chaminade.
Yeah.
All right, Adam, you got the Cavaliers. So you're going to be taking on my New York Knicks. New York Knicks.
Yeah. I was going to say coming up.
The Cavs are.
Yep.
Correct. The Cavs are a really good team, though. So
they are overall. They're fourth overall in the Eastern Conference. So we'll see.
My pick is the Warriors. I got that. How fucking hilarious is that? I got the only team that I really watch consistently in the Warriors. That's funny as hell. But yeah, that's funny. They're facing the Sacramento Kings. Yeah. And what the hell, man? OJ is getting some really good really good teams here. So you got Boston, the number 2 team out in the East.
Wow, the Celtics.
Holy shit. So that's where he's
going to be the one to beat. Oh yeah.
And he just drew the 76ers too, which is the third team out.
The 76ers. Okay. Oh wow.
Yeah, so he's got the Thunders. So far, you got Thunder, Celtics, and the 76ers. So we're halfway through this. And Adam, you have the Suns, the Heat, the Cavs, which is not bad.
That's not bad.
I have the Hawks. Yeah, OJ definitely is the front runner with Thunder, Celtics, and the 76ers. Good lord. And I have the Hawks, Knicks, and Warriors. So we'll see.
We'll see some
thank God. Adam's fourth team is the Lakers. Not Slytherin. Sorry.
Okay. The one team that I've been rooting against, of course.
I know, right? That's why I was like, I'm hoping I don't get him too. Honestly, truthfully, because I know OJ doesn't really care, so to speak, I was really hoping that OJ would have ended up with the Lakers. You know what I mean? But
yeah, I wouldn't really care. So
yeah.
All right. So I just got finally a top contender. I got the frickin' Bucks, the number 1 team out in the East. Yes, sir. I like that. Although, quite honestly, in my own personal predictions that I've made outside this podcast, I have Boston and the 76ers beating Milwaukee. So we'll see what ends up happening there. Let's go with OJ with his 4th pick. He gets the Kings. So I'm facing you in the first round. Get the Kings. So from
still another great team too.
It really is. Yeah, they are a very high scoring team.
Yeah, they are.
Oh, are they now?
All right. Yeah.
Well, except for whenever they were playing the Warriors a couple weeks ago. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, the only thing about the Kings is their defense is not necessarily that good because they're a young team. So a lot of that goes into it for sure.
Oh, definitely.
And Adam, you got the Nets. So the Nets used to be a powerhouse, but hey, they're number 6 right now. They still got some good players. We'll see how
Philly as well. They're playing OJ playing the 76ers. So.
Oh man, I'm happy that I got this team, but I'm also really not. I just got the Bulls, so I have 2 teams that from the which I like Chicago. I like them a lot. I want them to be able to win, but it's also another play-in tournament.
Wow. Okay, I'm gonna chim that little sound bit there. He just said I like Chicago. Oh, I'm gonna use it against him.
I like the Bulls. Did I say I like Chicago? I mean I like the Bulls. Sorry.
I'm gonna be like one of those politicians that just takes the sound bite. There you go.
Yeah, just anybody want to trade? Yeah. I know. OJ got the Grizzlies, so the number 2 team out in the Western Conference goes to OJ. Yeah, the Grizzlies are a very, very good team, and that's a major rivalry.
We're just talking about you're gonna be facing me again whenever they face the Lakers. So
yeah. All right, and last team for Adam is the Clippers. So another
The
LA team. You got both
Clippers.
LA teams.
Wow, how
You got
about
the
that?
Lakers and the Clippers. That's funny as
Oh
hell.
boy, and I'll be facing myself too. So go figure.
Yeah,
You'll be playing to
exactly.
the Suns. Yep.
My last pick is the Nuggets, the number one team out in the Western Conference. Although to be honest with you, I don't know how strong they are anymore. But we'll have to see how about that. And last but not least is the Timberwolves for OJ.
Awesome.
Right.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, these are actually pretty balanced out when you take a look at like the
Yeah,
teams.
they are. For the most part.
Yeah, because like I got some high pulls, but so did OJ and Adam. You may not get like necessarily high pulls, but you got a lot of very good teams. Yeah.
Yeah, overall. Yeah. So we'll see.
The only team that you have that went that was in the play-in were the Heat and the Lakers, and Lakers are already through, so at least you will have a 7-game series.
They just won.
And the Miami Heat is still in it, but they're playing.
Yeah,
for
that was actually that play-in with actually a pretty exciting game. Obviously I'm not a Lakers fan by any means, but the fact it went to OT, that was
for sure, dude.
Exciting game for LA for sure. So unfortunately I had to start rooting for the Lakers, I guess. So it is what it is.
Let's take a look here at some of the so far what we have. So just going down the list here. So 76ers versus the Nets. So that will be that's OJ versus Adam. Yeah. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
we have
a
few matches to get together.
Yeah. Because I'm about to say the next one is Cleveland in New York. So that's me versus you, Adam. I'm just trying to write this stuff down so we have that.
Sure.
All right. And let's see. Let's just get to Western Conference because these are the ones that are like set in stone that I don't have to do anything with the play-in tournament. So I have hold on. We actually need to go to 3. So OJ's got the Kings, and I have the Dubs, the Warriors. Which is interesting. So now everybody in just the 3 games that we have, we're facing each other at least one time. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Just literally in the 3 games. That's pretty cool. And then you have the Suns and Clippers. So those are 2 of your teams, Adam. You're going up against each other.
You're going each other. So it is what it is.
So
I'm bound to win and also lose.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Like you're already in the second round, but it sucks because you're losing a team. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's
just
one of those things.
The luck of the draw.
Correct. All right. So let's take a look here at what we have going forward, because obviously the first seed and the second seed, none of that has really been drawn out just yet. We'll definitely take a look. So the A seed, Chicago versus Miami. So I have the Bulls, and who got the Heat? Oh, Adam. So that's you and me.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, first game that starts on Friday. And then the Thunder versus the Minnesota Timberwolves. That's OJ versus OJ.
Yep.
So, hey, you're going to get one team eliminated, but one team that's going first.
Awesome.
You know what we can do, actually, is take a look at the number 2 seeds, because those have been decided. Okay, so Boston, which is the Celtics. OJ, you have the Celtics. You're going to be facing off against my Atlanta team, who is through. So the Hawks, let me write this down, versus me. All right, and then Memphis Grizzlies are taking on the Lakers. So that is OJ versus Adam.
Yep.
Sweet.
I'll tell you though, this is actually quite balanced out. I'm very happy with the way this turned out. It's not like sometimes what we've done in like fantasy football and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I think that's going to be
somebody get it real like it's the shaft on it big time. So
over, yeah, like or except for like kicker. It's like, oh hey, you got the number 1 pick for kicker, but whatever.
Woo.
So right. All right, we'll have to see how the other games go, obviously, and stuff like that as well. But so we'll keep tabs on this, and we'll talk about that next week for the next session, and we'll dive into that. But we'll have to see how this goes. I think it's going to be fun for us to continue to do.
So what are we playing for? Just bragging rights, or what do we get?
Bragging rights, I would say. I mean, bragging rights, and again, the listeners can follow along here, and either give us crap Or, cheer us along, whatever. If you want to be Team Josh, that's fine. You can be one of two people on Team Josh. Or I'm sorry, 3 people, because I have 2 dogs. Although one of them's probably mad at me, so I'll just say 2 people. That's fine. Me and my mom on Team Josh. Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah.
I'm recruiting
anyway.
people over here.
Right, exactly. All right, guys. Let's go ahead and head here towards the sign-off portion of our session here. Adam, what is our media question of the week?
Question of the week. We're going to be asking our listeners, now that the season has effectively wrapped up for the Blues, what do you think should be the plans for the upcoming draft? Should the Blues be looking to trade up, or would you rather us keep our picks? And what are your pros and cons for each of the strategies? We'd like to, hear from you guys. Check us out on Facebook.com/TheHometownLosers. That's LOUSERS. Or check us out on Twitter at Twitter.com/HometownLosers.
And that's a very good question, because that's literally directly what we talked about here not terribly too long ago about what are the needs for the Blues. So definitely want to hear from the listeners on that, because that can definitely help us talk about our session next time around too, and what potentially could be what our off season looks like for sure.
For sure.
OJ, what do you got for us for the game of the week?
Well, how can it be anything other than the Battlehawks Seattle Sea Dragons game, where there's a lot of playoff implications on the line? So that's the game of the week, 2 p.m. Sunday.
I'll be there.
Sunday.
I will be there. We will bring home a win.
We'll give you the whole seat, but you only need the edge.
Oh man, it's so funny. Those commercials really for Monster Truck, they still have not changed. I think
they haven't. No. It's one of those things. You could play it back from the 90s, and it's it's the same old shit.
Yeah.
I remember my first Monster Jam. That I remember I was super excited because I just started getting in the cars, because I was 5, 6, somewhere around there. And I kept hearing the same commercial, Sunday. And I'm like, oh my God. Out about it. Oh. Yeah, dude. It was awesome. Kids get for free. I'm like, all right. But yeah.
Well, and ironically enough, most of those Monster Jams, we're always at the Dome, so maybe we'll see some our defense run over Seattle, so that'll be great.
I'll tell you a really funny story before I sign off. So, they do a lot at the Dome. So they had Monster Jam one week, and the next week was Comic-Con. I was up there. It was Wizard World Comic-Con, and we went to a loading area because I was helping out with a vendor at that point. And I'm not joking. In this area, there was just a giant pile of dirt. They didn't know what to do with it. It was just literally in one of the areas where security's at and stuff like that. Just this giant pile of dirt, and you're like, what the hell is this here? And can somebody just move it out of the way? They're like, yeah, we don't know what to do with it. Oh my God, it's so bad. Oh yeah, Monster Jam came through, and they just leave that.
They just left all this dirt.
Oh
man, that's funny.
It's like sweeping up in a pile and just leaving the pile there.
Not our problem. We're out.
Exactly. Well, speaking of being out here, guys, as always, it was awesome talking to you guys here. And again, happy 20th session to you, OJ, and to you, Adam, as well, and to the next 20 sessions here on the Hometown Losers. So we will catch you next week here on the Hometown Losers podcast. Have a great night, everybody.
Hey guys, this is Adam. Just want to say thanks for listening to the Hometown Losers podcast. We'll see you next week as we continue our discussion of St. Louis sports.